Daniel 9, 70 weeks or 77s, and Daniel 11 and 12 prophecies are all connected and pertains to events involving Israel today. Everything you've been taught about Daniel's 9, 11 and 12 prophecies are wrong. It is not what you've been told, not even close. What say you? Daniel 11 verses 31 to 45 playing out right now in front of the whole world and everyone is oblivious. Verse 11:40 is about to happen. Most of Daniel's prophecies are miscontextualized, mistranslated with Christian bias, even with words added. Daniel 12 verse 11 and 12, and from the time of the turning aside of the perpetual, and to the giving out of the desolating abomination, are days 1,290. O the blessedness of him who is waiting earnestly, and doth come to the days, 1,335. October 7th was the Abomination of Desolation, 1,290 days before that Israel went into lockdown, and the 1,335 days was when the first ceasefire and hostage exchange deal was made. Israel went into lockdown during the evening of March 25, 2020. Hamas attacked Israel 1,290 days later on the early morning of October 7, 2023. Ceasefire hostage deal was approved 45 days later on the night of November 21, 2023, which was the 1,335th day. Leviticus 25 verse 8, count off 7 Sabbath years, 7 times 7 years, so that the 7 Sabbath years amount to a period of 49 years. That's the key to unlocking Daniel 9, it's not a 490-year prophecy and there is no 7-year tribulation. The 7 is a week of Sabbath years, each Sabbath years happens every 7 years, so 1 week is referring to a 49-year period. It's a 3,430-year prophecy from God's command to Moses to return and lay the foundations of peace, i.e., to establish Jerusalem, to the anointed King Saul, the first ruler of Israel, to the rebuilding of modern-day Israel and to the last ruler of Israel, who is also the anointed one that will be cut off along with the destruction of the city. You can work out the dates backwards because we are in the last 49-year period, the middle of the last 49 years was 2020, the clue was given in Daniel 12's 1,290 days and 1,335-day prophecy. God's command to Moses occurred around 1386 BC, first week is the years 1386 BC to 1338 BC. King Saul reigned roughly 343 years later during the 7th week, between the 49 years of 1043 BC to 995 BC. Rebuilding of modern-day Israel happened between the 49 years of 1947 to 1995 during the 69th week, around 3,381 years after Moses or 62 weeks, 3,038 years after King Saul. Last week or 49 years of the 70 weeks is 1996 to 2044, this is when the Anointed One is cut off with the destruction of the city after 69 weeks during the 70th week. 2020 was the ceasing of the daily, continual or perpetual, which included the ceasing of sacrifice and gifting or offering, in other words worship and religious ceremonies. Daniel 9 verse 27 is talking about the actions related to the Anointed One during the last week, which are connected to the events of Daniel 11 verse 31, and strong ones out of him stand up, and have polluted the sanctuary, the stronghold, and have turned aside the continual, and appointed the desolating abomination. The ruler that is to come who destroys the city in Daniel verse 26 is the one that will most likely end him. Daniel 11 verse 36, the king will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god and will say unheard of things against the God of gods. The biblical Hebrew word used for God here is El, which can also mean strong, mighty and powerful depending on context, right? So who are they in context to a king during warfare? They are none other than leaders or rulers of other nations. And who is the power of defense he will honor? The foreign power that will also help him attack the defense stronghold of others. That's obvious. Daniel 11 verse 41, he will also invade the beautiful or glorious land, well that's Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. You don't need to be a genius to figure out who the king of the north is at the end of Daniel 11, who is also the anointed one that will be cut off in Daniel 9 verse 26. Israel and Egypt will eventually go to war again. Israel will overcome Egypt but will then fall to forces from the east and the north. When the power of the holy people is finally broken, i.e. when the people of Israel are defenseless, that will be the time of distress such as has not happened from the beginning of nations until then, the time of Jacob's trouble. Daniel 12 verse 9, Go your way, Daniel, because the words are rolled up and sealed until the time of the end. Daniel 11 and 12 And by reason of that Daniel 9, to seal up vision and prophecy, i.e. to finish all visions and prophecy are sealed for the time of the end, they won't make sense until the time of the end, when these events are playing out. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, you can take what I say from here onwards in regard to possible future events as speculation and conjecture, but here I go anyway. What will most likely happen after the fall of the king of the north are the visions of Daniel 8, another prophecy that has been misunderstood, miscontextualized and mistranslated. The horn or the king that grows in power to the south and to the east and toward the beautiful land, who does invade Israel doesn't take away the daily sacrifice but continuously throws down the sanctuary and continuously tramples on the holy and host or with a host, in other words the trampling on the holy people or places and the military or with a military. The word sacrifice isn't in the original Hebrew text for Daniel 8's vision, neither is it in Daniel 12's 1290 and 1335 days prophecy. This horn or king to come is most probably the same little horn described in Daniel 7's 4 beast, who will oppress and wage war on the holy people for times, and half a time. Daniel 8 verse 14, It will take 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary will be reconsecrated. 2,300 evenings and morning can also mean 1,150 days, so Israel will probably be under occupation for around 2,300 or 1,150 days before being liberated. The literal translation of this verse however is as simply as, till, evenings, mornings, 2,300, the holy, to be just, or righteous, therefore it can possibly mean something else altogether. It could be connected to Daniel 9 verse 24, to anoint the Holy of Holies, perhaps the coronation of the Messiah. Daniel 8 verse 26, The vision of the evenings and mornings that has been given you is true, but seal up the vision, for it concerns the distant future. Daniel 8 verse 17, Son of man, he said to me, understand that the vision concerns the time of the end. So just like Daniel 9, 11 and 12, Daniel 8 is sealed for the end.